For this tutorial, I'm going to be using my 4.25mm hook. I like the way the granny squares come out with this size hook, but if you prefer a more of a tighter weave or a more open weave, feel free to adjust. You'll also need a pair of scissors. You don't necessarily need stitch markers for this project, however, I always have them on hand just in case. And then I'm going to be using these 4 colours for my squares. I'm going for a maroon colour, an orange, a tan nude colour, and then some white. This is a bit left over I had from a previous project, so I'm going to use it up. But feel free to use whatever colour combination you like. So I'm going to begin with my orange colour today. I'm just going to do a slip knot onto the hook. Just like that. Now we're going to start with chaining 4 to begin. And then go back into that first stitch and do a slip stitch. There we are. Now as I complete the slip stitch, I try to pull the yarn as best as I can so I can then see the middle hole. You can see that it's just in here. So from here, what we're going to do is just chain 2. So yarn over and go into that center hole and do 2 more double crochets, just like that, and then chain 2. So once you've done that chain 2, we're going to go back into that center circle and do our next 3 double crochets, followed up by the chain 2s. And then now we're just going to finish that off with a slip stitch, just like that. And now we're going to cut this yarn, so chain 1 just to lock that in, and then cut your yarn so you have a little bit of a tail. So you've got your middle color done. I'm just going to put that aside and then grab my next color, which I'm using this maroon color. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to put my hook in this corner here and then grab the new color and put it over my hook just like this. Now I'm going to pull that in so it's loaded onto my hook in front of the square now. And then I'm going to yarn over both of those threads, being the tail and then the working yarn, and pull up a loop. Just like that. I'm going to drop this tail down just on the side. I don't need that anymore. So that first chain we did with both of those threads is acting as our first chain out of these 3. So now we're just going to chain 2 more. Your 3 chains just there acting as its own double crochet. So now what we're going to do is, because we're working in lots of 3 for this pattern, we're going to be doing another 2 double crochets in this corner stitch, acting as that cluster there, just like that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to chain 2 and then yarn over. Now I'm going to keep this orange tail over the top of the stitches, so I make sure to weave over them. Now with your yarn over the hook, what we're going to do is go into that corner stitch and pull up a loop, and making sure we have the tail laying on the stitches as well, so they're caught in this double crochet. So pull up that loop and then pull up those 2. And then that's your first double crochet just there with the ends over the top. Now, just like we're doing with the clusters of 3, do our next 2 double crochets, making sure to still yarn over and collect that tail so it's hidden. So that's the next cluster of 3 just there. Now we're going to chain 2, and that's acting as our corner stitch. And then yarn over and do the next cluster of 3 double crochets. And now chain 2 and yarn over and go into that next corner and do your next set of 3 double crochets. Now just before I finish that off, your square should be looking something like this. We just want to chain 2 and then slip stitch in that first chain that we did. There we are. Chain 1, pull up a bit of a loop, and then we can cut this yarn. So now we have done that next round. What we're going to do is go back into that corner just here and pick up the new color, pull that through, and then with both of those threads at the back there, we're going to yarn over and chain 1, putting the tail one down, and I'm just going to hold it down at the back there so it's out the way. And now, we're going to chain 2. So then that completes that first chain just there, acting as its double crochet. So now what we're going to do is we're going to yarn over and do 2 more double crochets into this corner space, just like that. Chain 2, then we're just going to chain 2, and now from here, like we did with the orange tail, we're going to lay this maroon tail over the top of those stitches and make sure we capture it as we do our double crochets. This is saving us having to weave in those ends at the when we're finished the project. I just like working over them as I go. So yarn over and go into that middle space. Now we're working with a middle space. Lay that tail over the top, pull up a loop. It can be a bit tricky to juggle. You just have to make sure it's laying down flat and is captured in that first double crochet. And then now finish this cluster with the next 2 double crochets, so you have 3 in total, just like that. Chain 2, and then yarn over and do the 3 double crochet cluster with a chain 2, and then your next 3 double crochet cluster all in this corner space, just like that. So you can see here it's starting to take a corner shape. Then what we want to do is chain 2, and we're just repeating this all the way around. So in all the gaps that we have, we're going to be doing that 3 double crochet, 2 chain. So now yours should look something like this as well. We're just going to do the last chain 2 in this corner stitch, and then slip stitch in between that first chain and the next double crochet. And then what we're going to do is chain 1, and we can cut the yarn. Okay, so I've got my final color here. I'm using that nude color. I'm going to put my hook through this corner, pull through that corner space, yarn over both of those threads and pull up a loop. And then putting the tail down, I'm just going to hold it with my fingers at the back there like normal. And then we're going to chain 2 more. And then that's your first chain there, acting as its double crochet. So now what we're going to do is yarn over and do 2 more double crochets in this space like we've been doing on the previous rounds. Chain 2, and then yarn over, and don't forget to collect that tail from the previous round and make sure we incorporate this over the next lot of double crochets. Okay, I finished that final round. I've done my last 3 double crochet clusters here, and then I've chained the 2 just before we finish it off. So I'm going to do a slip stitch in between that first chain and the double crochet here, and then do chain 1, and then we're done. I'm just going to pull up a little bit of a loop and cut the yarn. Now, because we've been weaving over the ends as we go, the only one you'll have to do is this one here. Now, if you're joining these up for a blanket or a shirt or whatever your project is, you don't have to worry about weaving them in now. You can just simply layer over the top of the stitches as you join your squares. So I hope this tutorial was easy to follow. If there is any other tutorials you would like me to do on the channel, please let me know. But I look forward to seeing you all in the next one.